The New York Islanders close out 2024 with a 3-1 loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll break down the game, have our hero and go to the game, and look ahead to 2025 with some New Year's resolutions. All that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, and Happy New Year. It's the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Happy and a healthy new year to everyone. I can't believe it is already 2025 as this show is released. And I will say this, 2025 is going to be an eventful and pivotal year for the New York Islanders. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show. But first, the Islanders closed out the old year, 2024, with a loss. No big surprise. Final score 3-1 in Toronto. Simon Holmstrom did not play, upper body injury. Those of you who saw yesterday's show, we were on top of that, discussing the possibility that Holmstrom would not be ready to go. Pierre Engvall took his place in the lineup and was, well, there. I mean, again, Engvall, you look at the numbers, 8 minutes of ice time, no hits, no blocked shots, no shots on goal, not plus or minus. Pierre Engvall was a hockey player in this game. And I think that's basically what you could say. As far as the Islanders are concerned, it wasn't a bad performance. There were definitely some bright spots in this game, but at the end of the day, it also wasn't good enough. And the New York Islanders need to be better if they're going to get back into the playoff chase this year. And to be honest with you, I am not so sure that they are. The Islanders, the first period was kind of even and not very exciting. And then at the end of the period, Toronto takes the 1-0 lead. You had 2 disallowed goals in this game, one for each team. The disallowed goals, the one by the Islanders was very frustrating because Casey Cizikas kind of could have just made a little bit more effort and dragged his foot and kept the play on side, but he did not. The goalie interference call was a little bit questionable as to whether or not, the player was pushed into the goalie or how much of an impact it had. But realistically, each team had 1 goal disallowed. The Islanders then end up tying it on a goal by J.G. Pageau off a very pretty feed by Noah Dobson. That was Dobson doing his thing, and Pageau way ahead of last year's pace. I mean, Pageau was kind of on pace for maybe 19 goals this year after scoring, 11 a year ago? So that is encouraging. But in pure Islanders fashion, 16 seconds after Pageau ties the game, Steven Lorentz scores and the Maple Leafs take the lead. And the Islanders are just unable to tie it. They had some chances, couldn't get it done, and John Tavares finishes the scoring on an empty net goal. Now, highlights of this game, besides the Pageau goal and the fact that for the most part, this was a fairly even game. The Islanders actually outshot the Maple Leafs. I can't say they outplayed them, but, it was pretty even. And both teams, had their moments and looked disinterested and not so good in other moments. But here's the thing. Highlight for me, the penalty kill. And you look at it statistically, and the Islanders were 1 for 4 on the PK. And that's not great. I mean, that's still, 25%. So you're only killing 75% of the opposing team's power plays. But keep in mind that the one power play goal allowed was the empty net goal by John Tavares. So yeah, it technically is a power play goal, but it's more of an empty net goal than a power play goal. And I don't count that as being a negative on the PK, even though statistically it will be. So the Islanders were 3 for 3 in penalty kills where they actually had a goalie in the net. And against a team like Toronto, who, even though they're around 19th, 20th in the league on the power play, when you have Mitch Marner and John Tavares and William Nylander and Max Domi and Max Pacioretty, and Morgan Riley, you've got a lot of talent out there. It should not be shocking that, Toronto is capable of putting together a solid effort on the power play. So I was happier with the PK in this game. And as far as Ilya Sorokin was concerned, again, a solid effort, not spectacular, but definitely solid, played well enough to give his team a chance to win. But when your team is the Islanders and they're just not finishing because the way this team is sort of put together and the talent, well, you put 2 and 2 together, and you have to say that, well, again, here they are against a team that is a contender in the Eastern Conference, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they are just not quite good enough to get the 2 points on a consistent basis. And the Islanders, if you look at, they've now lost 3 of their last 4. They are 3 games under NHL 500, which is the most games below NHL 500 they've been all season, which is also kind of hard to believe when you think about everything. And as we flip the calendar now to January, to the 2025 portion of the season, it ain't getting easier, folks. It is not going to get easier. The Islanders' next 5 games are Toronto, and then at Boston, at Vegas, at Utah, and then back home for the Ottawa Senators, who are playing better hockey as of late and are one of those teams they need to pass in order to somehow get back into the playoff hunt. So it isn't getting any easier. And after the game, once again, you have the same situation staring you in the face. And here's my concern about the post game. Okay? The concern about the post game is that Patrick Waugh once again is saying, I thought we played a good game. To be a great one, we have to win, but I thought we played a good game. It's the kind of road game that you need to play and just bear down on your chances. Okay. It's not wrong in one sense. They didn't play poorly. They didn't play well, but they didn't play poorly. They played, let's say, a solid game. But in his words, here's the thing about Patrick Waugh. He called his team out after the game they played on Sunday. You hope that the team's response is better. And to say that I thought we played a good game when you lose 3-1 and you're 3 games below NHL 500, there is almost a feeling of resignation in the quote by Patrick Waugh, acknowledging sort of on a certain level that, yeah, this is about as good as what we can do on the road against Toronto. And so, this is what we are. And the fact that the team did not respond as much as you would hope after he calls out their dedication and their performance on Sunday, and the fact that this team really just seems to be stuck in this muddy middle, I just get the feeling that there is an acknowledgement on a certain level from Patrick Roy that this team just isn't good enough to make the playoffs, or if they do sneak in, to make any noise. And, this is who we are. This is what we are. It is Patrick Roy's job as the head coach to get this team to another level, to maximize the talent that is on the roster. He may already be doing that in his own mind. He may have come to the conclusion that this is the most we can expect from this roster. And he may be right in that respect. They may be capable of going on a run now and again, putting together, a 3-1-1 kind of a streak. And if they do that, yeah, they could jump from 7th place in the Metro to 5th or 4th, or even be temporarily in a playoff spot if they go 3-1-1 and a couple of other teams slump. But again, long term, the outlook for this team is not good if they keep the current roster together the way it is. And that's going to take us to our second segment. We are on New Year's Day. What should the Islanders' New Year's resolutions be? What can we expect from this team also in the coming calendar year? We're going to talk about that. Plus, we'll have our weekly farm report. And here's a tough one for our Islanders' birthday of the day. A forward, a Toronto native, third-round pick of the Isles back in 81, who played parts of 3 seasons for the Isles in the mid to late 1980s, but only played a total of 26 games in those seasons. Let's see if you can guess who that is. I know it's a tough one. We've got all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. It's thrilling. And hey, Islander fans, don't forget, use your knowledge of the Islanders and of hockey for some exciting opportunities on FanDuel. Head over to FanDuel.com to check out the latest odds. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So, hero and GOAT of the game, before we get to the New Year's resolution stuff. Hero of the game, I'm going with J.G. Pageau. And why J.G. Pageau? He scored the goal. Let's start with that. He had 5 shots on goal, so credit for that, and 6 hits. So, and 2 block shots. So, to me, J.G. Pageau all around gets it. Yeah, 10 penalty minutes also kind of took a misconduct for unsportsmanlike conduct / abuse of the officials with 33 seconds left in the game. That happening right after the goal, the empty netter by John Tavares. But to me, that has to be the hero of the game. Go with J.G. Pageau, edging out Ilya Sorokin. So we'll go with that. And for go to the game, just the lack of ability of this team to finish. The Islanders had 31 shots on goal in this game. Only one of them ends up getting behind Joseph Woll. Woll was banged up. The lack of finish is going to be our GOAT of the game. All right. It's New Year's Day. Happy and a healthy New Year to everyone. And let's hope that this is an eventful and important start of this new year for the New York Islanders. And I have to say that between now and let's say the middle of July, the first 6.5 months of this year are going to be pivotal and eventful for the New York Islanders. This team's New Year's resolution, everydayers will be familiar with it. Get this team younger, faster, and more skilled. And it means a retool. It means breaking up the old gang. And that has to be the primary message, the primary goal, the primary New Year's resolution for this team. I like almost every player on this team. I appreciate what guys like Kyle Palmieri, Brock Nelson, Anders Lee, Ryan Pollock, Adam Pelech, so many of these guys, what they've meant to this organization, what they've done for the team, for the fans over the years. I get it. But it's time to break up that old gang of mine. The realization has to be, and it has to come from ownership on down, but the realization has to be that this group, this core, peaked 4 years ago and 5 years ago when they made those back-to-back runs to the Stanley Cup Conference Finals. So you got to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2020, in 2021, and it was a great run. And since then, you missed the playoffs, lost in the first round. This year, you're in danger of missing the playoffs again. And maybe the best you could hope for is to lose in the first round. So to me, that's not why you're playing hockey, okay? You are a professional hockey team. Your goal is to win the Stanley Cup. And the best way to win the Stanley Cup is not to finish 7th or 8th in the conference and hope you get lucky and get hot at the right time and go on another run. You've got to put together a core that is capable of contending. And you cannot say that the best part about the first half of this season, and we are 38 games into an 82-game schedule. We're 3 games away from the midpoint. You cannot say that the best thing that we could say about this team now is that they have the most loser points in the division, and they're 2 points ahead of the Rangers, although the Rangers have a couple of games in hand. That cannot be the way you look at this team. You've got to put together a group that will contend, that can be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the division, that has a legitimate chance to go on a run. So here's the deal. Again, Lou Lamoriello, Hall of Fame GM. I respect everything he's accomplished in his Hall of Fame career, but I don't agree with his approach to the way this roster is being put together and the way that he goes about building a team. If he doesn't realize that this core that he put together needs to be retooled, the way this team is playing, the way that things are going, not just this year, but over the last 3 years, you've changed coaches twice. Lambert out. You brought in Waugh after you let go Trotz. It was Lambert and Waugh. There's not a significant difference in the way this team is playing between Lambert and Waugh. And so you have to say it's the players, and we need to change it. If Lou Lamoriello does not believe in retooling or rebuilding, then ownership has to step in and move on from Lou Lamoriello. And if that happens, look, I can make a resolution, I can go through this list and be very surface. Yes, the special teams need to be better. The Islanders need to be better on the power play. The penalty kill and power play cannot be dead last. Let's get them to 25th in the league and maybe even 22nd. And maybe we'll win a few more games if the special teams improve. And if the Islanders can stay healthy, boy, that would really help them win 2 or 3 more games over this. No. The bottom line is I can nitpick little things and talk about the need to improve special teams or the need to finish or to shoot more or to clear the zone better. But the bottom line is that this team, the way they're put together, is older, slower, and not talented enough to win consistently. They can have good games on any given night. They can beat any team if they play their best hockey. But they don't play their best hockey often enough. There is a certain complacency and lack of urgency up and down this roster, and they are not good enough. So the New Year's resolution for the New York Islanders has to be clear out some of the older guys, whether it's Palmieri, Nelson, Pageau, Lee, Pelech, Polak, whoever it is, clear out some of those guys, free up cap space, add draft picks, add younger players, add prospects. That has got to be the ultimate New Year's resolution for the New York Islanders. And I'll tell you right now, if Lou Lamoriello isn't going to do it, and I don't think he is, then ownership has to say, we will. And if it means parting with Lou Lamoriello or making Lou Lamoriello the special advisor to the general manager or the president in charge of hockey operations or whatever title you want to give him, do it. Because this organization needs change yesterday. And the longer you wait, if you lose Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri for nothing, or you re-sign them to 3, 4, 5-year contracts, you're just prolonging the agony of this franchise. So let's hope that this team gets younger, faster, and more skilled, and that the necessary change happens between now and July 15th of this year. Because if it doesn't, the hole this team is in is just going to get deeper and deeper, and the retool becomes a rebuild, and it's longer, and it's tougher, and the fans will suffer through more bad hockey than they've already suffered through. All right, we've got more to get to. We have our weekly farm report on all things Bridgeport Islanders, plus our Islanders birthday of the day. All that and more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite moments last year was attending a concert. The energy and excitement were just unforgettable. Now, Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. The feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. My favorite feature on the Game Time app, the view from your seat. You go on the app and you get a panoramic view from your seat before you purchase the tickets, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today and for the new year. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. You can become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Time for our weekly farm report. We discuss all things Bridgeport Islanders. Bridgeport played 2 games since our last farm report in the middle of last week. They started off the week with a 4-1 loss to the Providence Bruins in their last home game of the calendar year 2024. Liam Foudy, the only goal. It came in the third period. And, basically, the Islanders end up falling in this game. Jakub Skarek was the goalie. He falls to 4-9-1 on the season, and the Islanders' struggles continued. But the very next night, the Islanders came back and won a 7-5 victory over the Springfield Thunderbirds to close out 2024 on a winning note. They had 42 shots on goal and 7 goals. Both of those were season highs. Liam Foudy, 2 goals. Gamel Smith, 2 assists. Mark Gatcomb, a goal and an assist. Henrik Tikkanen, 31 saves to get his first win at the AHL level this year. But the big story of the night, Matt Maggio, 2 goals, 2 assists, and a career-high +4 in this game. So Maggio finally showing a little spark, and that is long overdue. He continues to not have impressive numbers for the season, but an encouraging performance in that game. Right now, Brian Pino leads the team with 15 goals and 24 points. Chris Terry right on his tail, 23 points in 29 games, 4 goals, 19 assists. Alex Jeffries, 20 points in 26 games, 7 goals, 13 assists. You look at Matt Maggio, 3 goals, 12 points in 26 games. Travis Mitchell right now leads all defensemen with 11 points, 4 goals, 7 assists, followed by Samuel Bolduc at 10. And William Dufour, 4 goals, 9 points in 27 games. He's a -14 plus/minus. The goaltenders, well, Marcus Hogberg and Jakub Skarek getting the majority of the work. Hogberg, as we know, up with the big club right now. He is 2-5-3 with a 3.26 goals against and an 898 save percentage. Skarek, 3.30 goals against, 892 save percentage. He's 4-9-1. If you look at the standings, Bridgeport remaining in 8th place in the Atlantic Division. They are, 11 points out of 7th place. They have a 300 points percentage. Only 2 teams are lower, the Henderson Silver Knights and the Manitoba Moose. So still struggles in Bridgeport, but you'll take that win to close out the year. 2 games this weekend, Saturday, a 5 o'clock Eastern time home game against the Rochester Americans, and then a Sunday 3 o'clock home game against the Hartford Wolfpack. So if you want to see some of the Islanders' future stars playing now, head on up to Bridgeport for those 2 games, or you could watch them on AHL TV. So hopefully Bridgeport also with a better start to 2025 than they've had in 2024. But again, we'll believe it when we see it. It's time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And, tomorrow, January 2nd, will be the 62nd birthday of former Islanders forward Neil Coulter, the native of Toronto, 6'2", 180 pounds, a third-round pick by the Islanders in 1981. Made his NHL debut for the Isles in 85-86. Played in 16 games that year, 3 goals, 7 points, 4 penalty minutes. Played 9 games in 86-87, 1 more in 87-88, and that was the end of his NHL and Islanders career. He played in 26 NHL games, 5 goals, 10 points, 11 penalty minutes. Did not make a playoff appearance in the NHL. Didn't play for any team besides the Islanders either. Coulter's best game, one of them, November 2nd, 1985, Islanders hosting the Capitals at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Al Jensen, the goalie for the Caps, Billy Smith for the Islanders. And this was a back and forth game. which the Islanders held a 4-3 lead in. Late in the game, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Neil Coulter scores his second career NHL goal. Dennis Potvin with the assists. That made it 5-3 Islanders. That was the final. Smith with 28 saves in the win. Brian Trottier had 2 goals and an assist to lead the Islanders' attack. But for Neil Coulter, our Islanders' birthday of the day, he scored the game-clinching goal. He was a +1, and he scored on one of his 2 shots. Neil Coulter is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Everydayers, we will be back tomorrow to discuss the latest injury news, plus some more things that the Islanders need to do in the upcoming season as we get ready for the 2025 portion of the schedule. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever it is that's on your mind. You can follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis. Happy and a healthy new year to everyone. Let's hope this is a turning point, 2025, in the Islanders' fortunes. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.